Hey guys, I know it's been about a month since I made my last video. I know some of you are angry with me about that, but don't worry, I know you really love me forever and ever and would never really hate me all that much. But anyway, so today I wanted to talk about something known as the rhetoric of choice. It's this idea that was brought up to me, rather I should say introduced to me, in my feminist philosophy course, and I'm going to sort of try and break it down because I think it's an interesting idea, but I'm also then going to put a link in the doobly-doo um, to my philosophy teacher's video discussing rhetoric of choice because she obviously does a much better, if albeit more complex, description and analysis of it than I will be able to do. But the idea is sort of, rather I should start with, the idea came from this article, or rather piece that we read in class by Chris Cuomo called, oh shit, what was it called? Oh, Claiming the Right to be Queer. And it was going on about, really interesting ideas, sort of, what is homophobia, and sort of breaking down, like, the ideas of homophobia, and what we need to do to combat it, and things like that. And, Cuomo talked about this thing called the Enlightenment view, which is this idea that so long as we uh, keep, as the LGBT community, continue to expose ourselves, to people, they'll begin to realize that, we aren't bad people. But this plays off the idea that people have negative and wrong ideas about us. However, then she, dismissed that and said, well, the alignment view is good. It's not perfect because there are these things known as subjective moral truths, which is, in the example she gave was, and this is true for me, I don't like the idea of drinking. So I don't like the idea of drinking. I see you drinking, therefore I'm not inclined to like you because you are doing something. There's no two ways around that. You're definitely drinking, and I don't like it because of my subjective morals. So then how do we deal with those people? And that's where homophobia really comes in, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, point being, uh, so we discussed that in class, and then my teacher, Corey, brought up this idea of the rhetoric of choice, which is, sexuality is considered to be fluid and everything else, and people sort of know that, and there's like the spectrum, and people fall along the spectrum, and we see that with like Kinsey and excuse me, that was disgusting, and just sort of other ideas in sexuality and stuff like that. But then there's also the argument for being born this way, and I should probably take a moment here to say that the idea of the rhetoric of choice is more of a political rhetoric rather than something that necessarily needs to be taken into everyday account. For instance, I think it's an interesting idea, and it's effective, or could be effective. However, at the same time, I do believe that people do have inherent things. Sorry, Beauvoir. Sorry, Butler. But I do believe that we just don't, we don't just do our bodies. There are inherent sort of bits to us that sort of then have to be expressed. We're not entirely performative people, or people. So anyway, rhetoric of choice, getting around to that finally, is this idea that we as the LGBT community generally don't like to say, "Oh, we chose to be gay," because, or rather, heteronormative people will say to us, "Oh, you chose to be gay, so you can choose to not be gay." And then we always say, "Well, when did you choose to be straight?" No, we were born this way. But then Corey brought up this idea of, well, throw it in their faces, make them think that you chose to be gay, because then that puts pressure on them to, again, select people, but it puts the pressure on them to be different, to change things. We chose to be gay. We chose to, be different. We chose to do things differently and to break this heteronormative cycle of man and woman make children that will then, be with a man or be with a woman if they are a woman or a man, respectively. And this with gender roles that a man has to be tough and everything else, and the woman has to be very feminine and doesn't really need to get her hands dirty, things like that. Like it all, the idea of this rhetoric of choice is that it helps to break all of this, but at the same time, then we also have to accept the idea to some extent that we aren't just inherent, or we don't have these inherent qualities that we are then uh, expressing, but rather we do our bodies. We perform these actions, and through performing them, we make them true. I know that was really confusing. Corey does a much better explanation of it. Again, I'm going to link the video in the doobly-doo. But I think maybe I kind of explained it well. I don't know. Maybe kind of. I mean, it's an interesting idea. Corey also has a couple of other videos. Well, she has a bunch of other videos, but a couple of others that relate to this sort of idea specifically. One is her "Where Are All the Gay Girls?" The other is the I don't remember what she called it. The Cuomo piece. It's the latest one. Um, but yeah, I think it's just a very interesting and different idea than what I think a lot of people are used to for political rhetoric. Yeah. Okay. I know. Very, very deep, very serious. But don't worry. I'm hoping to make another video soonish, and I'll talk about drag queens and, my heart being broken. Fun stuff. Bye.